Welcome to Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions on Wolf Spirit Radio, Ever Beyond Radio, and Studio 9 Jam on YouTube. Take 3 with your host, Jessica Ariel Morocco, featuring JP as the voice of Andronicus. Please visit www.readingsbyrael.com. That's ARAEL.
From the future, by way of the past. I'm on my ticket for the 15th century. We started moving through a hole in history.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Greetings. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is Jessica, and I'm here with Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions. Hello, everyone in the chat room. Hello, everyone out there on YouTube. Thank you again for joining us. As usual, information continues to come in, and insights and discussions regarding this information. I apologize, running a little bit late today, but I wanted to start off by let's continuing our prayers and sending off love offerings and whatever is needed to the people at Standing Rock. Let's continue on with that. And also, JP, did you hear from Audrius about anything that they need or what's going on out there?
We only got a very brief transmission from them.
Okay.
From him. He came in 2 nights ago into the chat room. Just saying he's still there, because there were rumors that he had come home, but no, he was still there.
Okay. And so if people want to send love offerings, whatever you feel like
we
you
have,
want to do, or something like
was it a Patreon? I can't remember if it's Patreon or Muggsy set a thing up. Somebody knows it in the chat room. There's a funding page that people GoFundMe. That's right. And I think it's something like no-dapple or something like that. Can somebody put in the chat room what that is? And we can read it out into the thing so people on the YouTube channel can go along and help along, as well as the listeners who are listening live.
And I know a lot of people are affected by what's some of the declarations or statements of President Trump. Try to keep a positive energy flow. We are determining our reality, and we're not looking to any one person to make or change anything. We're focused on what we want in the highest and best for our reality, and we're also focused on protection, and for protection not just for the people at Standing Rock, which they have value, but also the protection for our waters and our earth and our planet. So let's continue to hold that intention. Our intention is more powerful than any one individual, especially if we're in joint agreement of it. And so we're going to create an element of just distractions and other things coming up, so he's not focused on that, and whatever he's going to have to take his loss on that area, because he does not own the water. And so we're just going to hold that intention and just be in agreement. Okay. Also, this week I had a really nice discussion with Ray Rowe. We did a session together, and upon discovery, we found it locked into a lifetime where many of us, where we all know each other from. And there's this medieval Middle England lifestyle that we all kind of joined in together with, and I'm going to explore that more next week. Vanessa and I talked a bit about it, and so how each one of us had a role in that time period, and a role or just who we were, and we are as we are now, but as far as our profession and so forth. I've done this plenty of times with people at parties where they ask how they're all connected, and I'll find the lifetime, tell them what they did for a living at that time, how they were connected. Sometimes they were related. And it's really, really interesting. So next week is going to be dedicated to that. I am inviting anyone from the chat room who's typically involved, or even those from YouTube who feel like they're kind of interested and want to speak up or say something and would be curious to know your connection to some of these characters, particularly Meetis in this medieval lifetime. So, join us, ask questions in the chat room, or even, if you want to get on and ask a question live. And we're going to try to keep it open and not have as many transmissions, so you have plenty of time to ask questions. Okay? All right. So that's our Andronicus update. In addition to, we do have a private Facebook page. If you're interested in joining, you can request on Facebook to be a part of the group, and Chaz will respond back to you. It's Charlemagne or Chaz. So anything else, JP, that you'd like to remind people of, other than to continue to give to the station, and thank you.
Yes, donations are always very welcome. Thank you very much for those who have donated to the show. The station. Hang on, let's have a look. Down 15th. All right. Well, the last one we had was on the 15th of January. So thank you to Kathy for that. Very generous donation. So that was lovely. Who else have we had? I'm just going to look on the in my Ever Beyond. So the thing is, Wolf Spirit Radio is a collective. Everybody has their own universe, their own station, their own website. This answers from the universe. There's Jessica's, and so that's driven from Andronicus transmissions.com and readingsbyariel.com. And on readingsbyariel.com there is a donation button, I believe, for just random donations.
Services.
Services and random, because Jessica does proper sessions and things. But if you thought, wow, I really love that episode, you can slip a tenner in. Why not? And I also have one on Ever Beyond Radio. That's so again, I have my own personal donation button. Nobody ever clicks. And then we have one on the Wolf Spirit Radio chat room. We don't charge for this. We rely solely on donations and solely on the subscribers to our archives, and that keeps the station going. And that puts us in a Trump-like position of not being able to be kowtowed by anybody. Nobody's going to say you can't do that because I'm paying you money, because nobody's paying us money to keep the station going. And it's important to remember that, because without sponsorship, it means that we have so much freedom to say what we need to say, not what we like, but what we need to say and what needs to be said. So, having said what needs to be said, back over to you, Jess.
Okay, wonderful. So I think from here, let's go right into the transmissions, because we do have James Rink is returning again, which I'm thrilled. We're going to talk about some super soldier information and a vision that I had, and kind of talk through it a little bit and see what he thought, as well as John Forster, who also I had this session with him, and this information came through while I was doing a session with him. And so apparently he and James Rink have a connection, and we'll get to that on the top of at around 3 o'clock today, Eastern Standard Time, or whatever time it is over there, Pacific. Okay, so let's go right into the transmissions, and we're going to start with Rhodan.
I see you pondering and thinking and seeing into all aspects of time and space. You want to cure the virus and find remedy for it all. What you're asking is a rather large request for an incarnated mortal. That is the reason why we're restoring many of your abilities where the hidden can no longer hide from you. You have chosen to transcend and arise above the ashes of layers of death and civilizations that have long since passed on your planet. You walk amongst the rubble of an already war-trodden earth, and there isn't a resemblance of what it was. Boiling sulphur, black tar, thundering waters of force, Heat that could peel your skin from your body. Yes, and then more came. The insect species, the hard-shelled warriors who agreed to tunnel, to build, and to create a landscape. Do you think we come down there and wave a finger to alter matter in your dimension? It's not exactly the Matrix as you imagine. The other dimensions have been the playgrounds of the creators. You are seated upon the density of substance that does not move easily. With the tunneling of the great species who gave structure and form to many planets about, they created a form so succinct with a balance of harmony. They separated the fires from the waters and sealed the vaporous gases within to create lift but not escape and dominate the upper atmosphere. The great snakes and worms burrowed and tunneled deeply to allow the waters to descend and create great cavernous spaces as they moved gently and sometimes furiously into the planet, carving their imprint through a remarkable tunnel system and expansive openings from within. The insectoids acquired a home that they had built and created and maintained. They will never be fully removed from this space, but I have informed them that they are only allowed to create interventions for the safety of the planet or to assist in the growth of humanity.
So you're saying the mantids reached their destination of prime source in our, or have already returned back to our reality?
They have, in fact, returned back to their present place of origins that I will not disclose to you. Each must check in, and there will be a feeling of void when some depart because of their strong presence. Don't fret, they will return. Those who were in the contrast, angry or disharmonious to their peers or humanity, will remain with Prime Source and will not return back until they are willing to correct the balance. For the worm species and other snakes are both primal beings. They live and have lived for eons of time. Meetis once had his origin amongst the Great Ones. He is sustained by his ancient lineage and knowledge.
What about Rhodan? Was he also of the serpentine species?
No, he's a true elven. Another species created prior to mankind. You share the planet with them. We will discuss them later. Returning back to my story, the formation and introduction of various species who were willing and equipped to serve a purpose on the planet were eventually introduced. The caverns and internal openings became the homes of various plants, animals, and species alike. All were allowed to enter this sphere. The challenge of territorial boundaries have always been our concern because they bring conflict. The ecosystem typically balances and aligns itself with predator and non-predator species. It all became a balance. There is not one personality that created this environment.
Many attribute the balance to Gaia.
She was very helpful at times to create a nurturing environment, to ease the conflict and assist in mediation. But she was not on your planet in the beginning. She had her own planet that she left to be here. Before her, Saturn took dominion above the others. It was the second Saturn that caused great harm. His daughter Ceres, or you may know her as Demeter, brought seeds, grain, maize or corn to the planet. She was large and imposing to the cryptids or early species who predated humans' entry onto the planet. She was not very nurturing, but insisted on certain systems that were upheld. They, both her and Saturn, and the mother of Demeter, Opus. Her mother Opus, was much kinder and showed the early civilizations how to plant and grow. In time, Demeter began to do the same. These are the earliest mothers to the planet. Saturn, as being the father of the other deities, was harsh, unruly, and lacked grace. His stature was best served as an aggressor to protect a great distance beyond the sun. This was his role, and he couldn't quite communicate with the others aside warlike ventures. You know the story. His own children turned upon him and contained him. But you can never contain the ancients. They are too powerful and have ways and many doors to go in and out of. In retrospect, the children of Saturn grieved that they had lost their father and regretted betraying him instead of assisting his process. You met him in a lighter incarnation as Cronus. We're all learning from this process. What makes us unique is that we were here to attend and assist all living beings, and we strayed far from it. What happened on Saturn is insidious. I tried to retrieve and remedy the situation. We finally have a level control. Many of Gaia's family have assisted us by releasing the criminals to us who have been as rogue agents taking advantage of the ancient conflict of a family upheaval. The echoes of that upheaval have touched all families in the galaxy as a result of it. In one way or another, families had to conquer the problems of jealousy, rebellion of children, battles between siblings or parents. And we attribute it to our family disagreements. We reflect your circumstances and vice versa. We can't help but be moved emotionally by your traumas. It sorrows us as we are reminded of our own mishaps and disagreements. At this point, we have grown to see the problems in inflated egos and poor decisions. Our father was injured by us, and we were injured by our father. You all know this story. The time has come for us to see this as a point for all to heal.
The thought, the name Opus, the wife who lost her husband, seemed to be set to vengeance. I see the term Black Ops Project, Opus Dei. I can't imagine what else it may influence.
She may have inspired the idea, but was never a warrior. In the end, Saturn called for his daughter Ceres to help him, not his wife Opus. He knew she could not help him, but Ceres, or Demeter, was cut from the same cloth as Saturn. She has since learned to use her energy to be more productive as opposed to being in exclusively a war mindset. After all, she was intended to be more nurturing and blesser of the grain. This is the reason why Gaia came in to fulfill this role.
Well, what becomes of Opus, or Ops? Will she thrive?
Yeah, we have allowed Opus to return and help the planet. She will be fine and assist. Demeter is insisting on being a warrior. I will send her to a place where she can protect until she has reached her fill of anger, and then return back to her status of planting and harvesting the grains and nurturing foods for the betterment of growth and existence.
With this story, I can't help but wonder how our grains have been so tainted, poisoned, and corrupted by GMOs, pesticides, and herbicides, chemtrails. Is this the reason why we're suffering by our food supply?
Unfortunately, yes. There is an imbalance in the chain of life. You know about the flower of life. But there is an ancient law that all must fulfill their role to provide a chain of life, each doing their part in bridging the system to create harmony and balance on your planet and other galactic civilizations elsewhere. Opus has agreed to assist in restoring your imbalance of grains until Demeter and Ceres return back to her normal status. Nothing on your planet will be able to prevent the protection of these substances we had sent to humanity as a gift that will allow humanity to go out of the practice of being a predator and mistreatment of our animals. This is also perpetuating and accumulating offences on a higher level. Our concern that these practices also lend to species extinction for not only them, but you as well. Be in peace, all is well, and more will be exiting the planet, and thus it is so. Oh. Long one from Rhodan there.
Yes.
What was the feel of that?
It was kind of, it's the same feeling that you get when you're talking to someone that had a family problems. It's like regardless of what everything else is going on in your life, it returns back to the disruption in the home. You know, the discord, the problem with Saturn, and that the story is that was it Hades, Poseidon, and Jupiter all take him down. And then there's other, incidences of just the negativity that actually collected there afterwards, after his exit. So, and very likely he continued to influence other civilizations because he couldn't quite get out of that mindset. So it was kind of like a heaviness. And then he said that, the problems that we have with our families are an echo of what they went through.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing, isn't it? We think that we are working out humanity's problems, but we're not. We're working out their problems. The
Yeah, but we are them.
Mm.
When you think about it. We're, you know.
We seem to be more and more. Who knows? Who knows? Rhodan might turn up in the chat room one day.
You never know. The other part was the story about Demeter and her connection and Opus, who's someone that you never hear about. And when you look, she's very, very understated, which means that she didn't have this overbearing personality. And she was probably just a little, you know, there supporting Saturn and was just doing her wifely, motherly things. And you see Demeter coming out very much like her father, much more warlike. And then their association to our food source and the grains. And you think, what's been most tainted in our food is the grains. Yeah, the vegetables have been as well. But I think it's the grains that are the most toxic.
And isn't it, I love the bit at the end where he said, he was talking about the reason that we gave you grains is to stop you eating the bloody animals.
Yeah.
Bam, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent thing.
Yeah, because they were perpetuating it, and supposedly it almost, at that moment, I almost felt like, and I'm telling you, I'm guilty. But I felt like, you know, the animals would, you know, talk about their mistreatment in the upper levels.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they? They're divine beings. You know, everything's divine. He was even trying to emphasize that the insects, which we really don't like and we want to get rid of, were the ones that actually are the burrowers. Anything that burrows into the ground is what keeps our earth fertile, and also has created these little pockets of space within the planet. It's just overall, you know, healthy for the planet. And if anyone that knows farming or gardening realizes that a well-tilled soil is best for growth, and that includes us. So you don't want anything really hard and compact. You want these little creatures going through and creating little tiny air pockets, and it balances everything.
Critters in pockets, that's what we like.
Yes.
Because
Right,
but it was that was a very interesting thing, you know, how our relationship with all even the relationship of Saturn, and because there's old stories about Saturn being our sun, our star, you know.
That's right. Here's some pieces of information I want to share with everyone regarding that. So Saturn and Jupiter are not considered planets. They are very much like suns. So they're ancient suns that, you know, had died off, whatever, you know, and then we have our sun right now in the solar system. Let's see. He was also known as Kronos, Saturn. His children were Jupiter, Neptune, Juno, Ceres, and Vesta. His parents were Caelus, Caelus, and his mother was Terra. Now, how often we heard from people from the Pleiadians, even like Audrey, mention Terra?
Terra seems to be, or that error sound does seem to be quite, you know, universal, if you like.
This is the parents of Saturn.
So who is it? Parents of Saturn again? Kal-El?
Caelus or Caelus, Caelus, and Terra.
C-A-E-L. Oh, that's a diphthong. That's A. So that would be Caelus.
Caelus.
Yeah. Sounds more normal. And then who's the other one? The mother?
Terra.
Is that T-A-R-A or T-E-R-R-A?
T-E-R-R-A.
All right. Okay. So, because we have Terra here, and then we have Error in the Pleiades, don't we?
Mm-hmm. But Terra is the place where Gaia, I guess, has been. You heard from if you listen to Patty Broussard, and she'll tell the story about Terra, as well as Audrey Lewis has talked about Terra.
So, That's too complicated for me. I just can't. It's like Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I can't follow all the characters because I keep forgetting that Glendale is not Glenbold or something. I don't know. Anyway, meanwhile,
yeah. So I was seeing a connection between Saturn and Ceres, and I didn't realize it. And then I looked it up and saw that that was his daughter, and that's when I got this whole story. When I saw Opus or Ops. She's also called Ops. OPS. And when I saw, I started making the connections, like that gentleman who makes all the name connections to different things.
Oh, Santos. Did you hear him last night? We had him on last night.
No, I didn't hear him last night,
just
but
before
I
Max's
think
show.
he's brilliant the way he pulls everything together and I got a little bit of that today where I was seeing the different links to Opus Dei, which is a I don't know if it's a Montauk program or a Super Soldier program.
I thought it was a Freemason lodge.
Oh, Opus Dei?
Yeah, Opus Dei.
I think it's private. Yeah, I think it's a place where James Casbolt went to for training or something like that. Grew up there.
Oh well, I mean, that's run by the Jesuits. This is all, and we know the Jesuits run everything.
That, and was it Black Ops was another one that I thought of, which is military related.
Of course, because it's all, I mean, again, these letters, the way we pronounce letters. If you're in Ireland, they pronounce all the letters. Well, not all of them, but they pronounce so the word, if you have two consonants together, you don't say film, you say film. And you look at Cork, we say Cork, they would say Cork. And that's how it's spelt in Gaelic, Cork. So, like the way you're saying opus, says opus, you're pronouncing the op, and then you're pronouncing the s as well. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's an older way of pronouncing English, which is less abbreviated. You're actually realizing that each letter is a whole word in itself.
That's fascinating. That's very interesting.
So there you go. So if anybody's interested,
Opus. Well, then I thought of Opus was the title they gave me for the Andronicus transmissions in book form.
All right.
It was going to be, the first part was Opus, and then the second part was going to be Magnum Opus, which is related to music.
Yeah, well, here we go. Opus is work. So, or piece. When you talk about a classical piece, you'll say, Rachmaninoff, Symphony No. 5, Opus 25, or something like that. It's not what it is, but it's a way of classifying musicians' work. This is like work number 1, work number 2. So you have opus, and do you know what the plural of opus is?
Is it with an I at the end, opi?
No, it's opera.
Opera.
The word we have, opera, is a collection of opuses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll notice when operas occur in different scenes and the tunes are different. That's because they're like different. It's like different songs. Mm-hmm. And a song in the old days is called an opus.
Very good.
So there we go. So Opus 34 by Meetis. What is it?
Meetis, actually, you're not going to believe it, but he was performing.
Oh, good.
He doesn't have a song today. If you want to,
all right.
Why don't we go to Meetis?
Let's go to Meetis. Okay. Right. I'm going to first of all, find my mouse. Now, I've got three screens that I can put my mouse onto, and I can never find it anywhere. So there we go. Window Meetis. Hello, my lovely. Isn't this a grand day? I have been given the greatest honour by my friend Leopold to present a violin aficionado in front of a finely groomed array of characters. Many of them are so much like me. Anyway, I'll be on my worst behaviour. So many dalliances and romances to find. They don't expect marriage, Sharp. A sharp. The other violinist. What's he telling me to play? He's telling me I need a backup. The absurdity of this. Dryden! Where are you? I know you're behind this. I found you're a little bit off key, a few notes. You should really think of tidying that up. I've never heard you sing or play any instrument. How would you know whether or not something is out of key? Try it. Test the waters, and you will see what I mean. After all, I am your best critic. It will help you. My best critic? I need you like I need a hole in the head. You wouldn't know the first from the last of it. Yeah, sour grapes, have we? Must you always be a bitter child having a tantrum? It doesn't become you. Let me see. Ding, 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 ding. Well, the instrument was out of tune. It wasn't my playing. So you admit it. Be gone with you. You're always taking my sunshine. My day at the dawning. You Mr. Boring will keep everybody yawning. Dryden then snapped out of the space and was gone. And good riddance, you foul-mouthed stag. Go on with your misery. You'll thank me later for avoidance of utter embarrassment. Oh, shut the door now. Meetis. Oh.
Meetis, I thought you were getting along with him.
Oh, we get along just fine.
That's not what I just saw.
Trust me, we do. It's a minor squabble. Nothing more. He now endears me like his brother. It leaves a taste in my mouth of bitter lime.
So, what is the event for with Leopold?
Oh, he's a dear friend of mine. Unlike that Banshee Dryden, he supports me and allows me to be who I am.
Is Dryden just very particular and doesn't see things the same way as you do?
Yes, but you don't understand. Leopold is someone I can go out and explore the dalliances of life with. He has the same type of interests, but much more into the culture of things. I merely desire the attention of the masses. It calms me, really. I feel a bit fulfilled that way.
I see. So, what will you accomplish there?
I will meet new friends, as always.
At some point, you'll have to leave then.
Some I will never leave, such as you, Flower.
Aw, that's nice, Meetis. What should we do with all of our friends? Put them in a place and keep them? Nurture them, heal them, and entertain them? Are you listening, Primus? One day we'll do that.
I don't have a song for you today. I must rush to my concert. It's in honor of me. Meetis Day.
Are you telling them it's your birthday?
Something like that. I can't tell them how old I am. They would never believe it. Everything I say they think is a comedy of errors, so this is what makes them happy and I will give it to them. The gift of laughter and song.
That's a good gift, Meetis.
Indeed it is. Come now, fella. We must be off.
Meetis speaks to his dog named Fellow, and then picks up his silk and feathered hat.
One day you will see I am performing my opus, and this is where she returns to thee. There's a little bit of gossip. It's like, this is like a kind of gossip column of the Andronicus transmission.
I honestly believe Leopold there was Leonardo DiCaprio again. He was one of his friends, I think. One of his buddies.
Well, I mean, he would hang out with talented people, wouldn't he? I mean, artistic and, musical and artistic and creative and all that.
So, Leopold, isn't that in the name of one of the musicians, someone famous? Someone in the classical music genre?
Leopold. Don't know. It's the first thing it struck is my dad's name.
Leopold, really?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe if someone can think of who it might be.
Yeah. So, there you go. Shall we?
Alright, so next is Andronicus.
Yes. Yeah. I see you've connected with Primus on Titania. Or Titania, even. All right, one sentence. I can't even do one sentence. Hang on. Ow! Ow! Take that! Ow!
Sounds like Meetis and Dryden.
Oh, yeah. I see you have connected with Primus on Titania. Like titanium, like titanium. It was a strange encounter for you. I see how you feel. I knew he'd make a dramatic entrance by doing it that way. Besides, JP always questions himself and what he's doing. I want him to be certain of his actions and things he must attain. We know him well. He is a man who requires very little and gives without apprehension, never regretting his gifts to others and never holding them over a barrel for it. My friends are all that way. My friends are all that way. Like Ketron, a heart of loving gold. Both will reap their rewards and live in the sun of life forever. Now, for others, they are still learning. Many are just opening up to their own truths. Many are remembering who they are and why they're here. It is a great place to discover, because when you're amongst my friends, you will always have a safety net if you fall out of balance. And today is a day to rejoice. A poisoned cell of existence has been removed from your ancient chambers. We mustn't speak too much about it as we clear other things from your parallel spaces, inner planetary societies and alternate spaces. You know, I have met many of you from one life to another. We broke bread. We had a cool or aromatic drink. We fermented our plants to create elixirs of great potency, and we drank from the same cup. We will do it again one day. Today, we must be strong and hold our intentions, and remember to stay true to the highest potential for humanity, and don't accept anything less.
Andronicus, are you still on Jupiter, or are you here?
The Voynich document had a few things on it. Let me see. It looks like we're on target.
Are you saying the Voynich is prophetic?
Yeah, but the hidden symbols relate to timetables, but done so discreetly that rarely any other could discover the meaning. I was forced to leave a warning or timetable of events by the Alpha Draconians. Since they were not educated or fluent in my language, they could not decipher what I wrote or compiled. This was supposed to be a medicinal book as well as a forecast of future events.
Oh, like an almanac. I see that now. I have to look at it more closely.
And you know they're leaving. Those who refuse to leave will perish. They were the most violent of all species on your planet, but were somehow eclipsed by the Vinkala, or reptilians. We know the Vinkala. They should not be trusted by any means, despite friendship. They are still not satisfied with what they desire to have, and can turn, if not appeased. They are agreeable now, but will not be satisfied to not be in their power or in control. It is their nature. We must have alternate methods of dealing with them in a way, or a way to assist them to a more agreeable arrangement without harming humanity. The Alpha Draconians are set on warfare. I want to mention that due to this warfare, one of the ancient builders are missing. Neither species will be able to exit properly or will be held to some degree until the ancient builder is returned safely. That is our law. That does not involve humanity other than the fact that they have suffered from the bad behavior and rebellion of both species. Expect to see some retaliation upon their exiting. We will try to keep it at a minimal. When the final builder is returned, we will be complete and order will be above, so there can be peace below. Very sober from Andronicus there, but very informative though. So ancient builders. So are they calling that they are builders? That's what they call themselves.
They were the ancient builder group. Mm-hmm. I guess that they were involved in the foundations, kind of like Kraton talks about. He talks about the building blocks of our universe.
Yeah.
And he didn't like how things were tampered with. I think there was an access point on Saturn where things started to decay and become corrupted because Saturn, obviously had some keys and access to certain things, and then he departed. But this is a builder. I don't even know who he is, but it brings us to a story that I wanted to discuss in the next hour. And hopefully we have our guest that will be joining us to discuss it further, because the ancient builders were also looking out for humanity and being involved with other projects that I became aware of just recently, just yesterday. So
Other projects.
Yeah, so other projects that may explain some things regarding some of the super soldier activity. Maybe not. We'll figure it out. So, and I'm open to whatever else can come in or whatever people can say, but I have gotten some confirmation on what I had seen and that others can concur with what I've seen. So, and it's just open for further discussion. But, meanwhile, let's talk about what Andronicus mentions earlier about me meeting the other JP.
Oh, yeah. That was quite an interesting little vignette of time. So last week after the show, it was like, on Thursdays, like I do Answers from the Universe, produce that, and then I produce the Interstellar Roundtable, and I produce Sean David Morton, and then I have a little bit of time where I play a replay of Shari Edwards. Tonight it's going to be Thomas Sheridan. I've moved all the schedules around so they're more sensible. And so Jess caught up with me later on after all that work and told me this. What did you tell me, Jess?
I told you that I happened to walk into the kitchen and I heard someone talking to me, and I was like, wait a minute, it sounds like JP. And then I started listening. I said, I think I'm losing my mind. JP's in my head. And then he said, well, I need to speak to JP. I said, well, tell me who you are. And he says, well, I am JP. I said, are you Primus? Who are you? And he said, I am Jeremy. And I said, okay, well, what would you like me to do, or why are you contacting me? And he said he was from the future in Jupiter, residing on Jupiter in Titania. And he said, I need to speak to Jeremy right now. And so I contacted you and wrote you a message, which I don't know if you still have it.
Yeah. Let me just, did I? Actually, I don't know if I...
And we went back and forth regarding the message, and he was clearly looking for something, and I don't know if you want to divulge that. And then he started noticing things in your house.
Oh, here we are. So, yeah, interesting. And also he said, you said that he said, he's not as Primus, and not as the way I pronounce my name as today, which is interesting because, as you know, I go by JP because my name is full of R's and my mouth doesn't do R very well, so saying the word Jeremy Perron is very difficult. But but if you got good lips and everything, you can say Jérémy Perron. Is that how he pronounced it?
Yeah, he's
like a French Canadian.
A French Canadian, yeah.
Oh my God, I turn into my father when I get older. Oh my God, Leopold, Anyway, so, bless your heart, Leo. So yeah, and, yeah, cause I said, and then I came straight back and I said, I was wondering when he would speak to you. Cause what I was thinking is that this was the character Primus that they're always talking about. Finally coming in and giving a report, like Andronicus and Meetis and all that. But no.
Yeah.
It was actually not that aspect, but a future version of me. Now, here's the thing, because I spoke to him about this, and I asked him what his time thing, how far ahead in the future he was, and he said 1,000 years. But that's where he's speaking from, but he time traveled there to get there. So I don't know exactly how far in the future he is. But as Walt said, Walt did a shamanic journey once and met this other version of me who's got like teeth and hair and stuff, got a nice big smile. And so I asked him about that, and I said, and he said, when I was contacted by my people, I did get what I wanted, which was like new clothes, and sort of some medical attention, get my, body back to, Because it's, it's a disguise. It's a bit like a disguise, this body, I think. If I was taller and more handsome and shinier, I'd be less.
Come on.
No, really, I'd be less in here and more out
there.
there.
Opinion.
That's my opinion.
No, that's. I think if people would be upset if you changed.
Well, anyway.
Right?
Well, I can do with a chewing surface. Anyhow.
Everyone thinks you're charming.
And then he started talking about aluminium pans. So, for everybody really.
Oh yeah.
If you've got aluminum pans, that you're cooking from, use them for flour. No, don't put, use them for planting or something. Just use them as a container, rain bucket. But, don't drink from them because they will leach into, the aluminium leaches into the, thing. And then it goes into your brain. And it short circuits your neurons. That's what it does to your brain.
Is that why he said that? Because he kept on emphasizing, get rid of the aluminum pans.
Yeah. So I don't use aluminium pans at all now. And I still, actually until like that. But there are things that come in foil packets. You get your little meat, pre-cooked meat thing in a packet. Your lasagna or something like that. That's an aluminium container. That's still an aluminium pan, by the way, people. So, just as a thought. And it's possible to get rid of aluminium by using magnesium malate. Malic acid, magnesium malate. And, that is a chelating for aluminium, which is what I'm taking for my brain. So, there we go. Now then he was talking about, the cupboards and stuff like that, but he said, in my second communication with him, I said, what about the cupboards and everything? He said, sorry, we'll talk about it. So I'll fill you in probably in a month's time because he was expecting it to be in February.
That's right. Yeah, he wanted to figure something out and he came a month early.
Yeah.
He asked what the date was.
So something happens on the 17th of February. For him.
Yeah.
So, that's a Friday. Oh.
It was very strange. It was a very strange communication. It kind of came in like Helios came in, which was kind of strange for me too. The same type of thing, you were too busy, you couldn't talk because you were doing a show, and I was just sending you the message that they wanted me to deliver to you at that time.
Mm-hmm. So, fabulous. What else is there? So there's that. Oh, then he helped us remove a whole load of greys from underneath my house. They were in some sort of containment field below the house that he asked me to. So we pierced it and released these things, and he collapsed the space underneath it because there was some portal. And then what was the thing about two beings in spacesuits?
I don't know. It was really strange. Probably at that moment, the problem is, I tell people to write this stuff down. It really comes from some part in my brain that it doesn't store. I think it's deliberately done that way because it's not intended to be saved, or it's just they don't want me to hold on to it. It's like when I do sessions with people, I remember bits and pieces maybe, but I don't always remember. They don't want me to data it and retrieve it. So I usually just let the information come out, and I remind people to write it down. But yeah, I don't know the two space. I'd have to think about it and see if they'll bring back the memory of what the discussion was.
Well, it's okay. I mean, there's so much happened, but and then we found we pulled out a few beings who have been sort of died in terrible ways here, and you made a joke. So housekeeping at its best. You see that, and things like that, little comments like that. That's what, that's me. Like terrible jokes. Or little funny little puns, punished.
So what's it like talking to you?
Weird.
Are you learning some things?
The first thing was I was really, so let me just go on to my, transmission. So I said, hello, with a little trepidation, I would like to speak to the Jeremy who spoke to Jessica the other day. And you're welcome. So, I'll do my voice, me here in a high register if I'm doing these conversations, and I'll do a low voice for the transmission. So, hello, Jeremy, my little me version. You will see that you have traversed many miles and millions of days that will unfold into the spectacular region of knowing for you. You have been training yourself in telepathy. It is still somewhat limited but good given the transmission issues. The Van Allen belt is disruptive at certain angles and prevents our transmissions getting through. It would also help if you could type properly. I know, I've been a bit rusty. You are also prone to laziness due to confusion. This will clear soon, and you will be a focused machine-like producer. You will produce more than webinars in the end, and there will be 1 or 2 masterpieces that will be remembered for ages to come. No, eons. You have no idea. So what is the next step for me to bring your energy into me now, here? This is a good move, and is an accelerant for many humans to do this simultaneously. There are cycles, and this is one of them. Keep drawing future manifestations of yourself into your now moment. Sorry. Where's it gone? Sorry, I just, right, there we were. I hit the page down button. Lost my page. Where is it? Keep drawing future manifestations into your now moment, and you will prevent and contract any opposition to our and your plan, which is the same, of course. So if you're me, do you know your history between me now and you then? Yes, I have a perfect memory since I left Earth behind. It has a form of frequency screening that prevents people from remembering their own truth. The frequency that is used to connect naturally is interfered with by the Earth technology. That's why it's good to go out to nature. This is not hard for you. It would help. So, there we go. So that's the first transmission I had with him. I spoke with him about some various personal issues and things. He calls me Lil Bro. So, Lil Bro.
Little me. So you're mini me.
Mini me, that's right.
So me says hello to me as a meme.
That's right. So we go me. It's all about me. So here's an interesting.
That's okay. You've got your future me in Jupiter, and I'm somewhere in the lunar sphere, with Mars.
Yeah, so, you're all over the solar system. You have your, you got a little cottage. Mom. You got a little cottage on Mars somewhere. A little cottage in the Pleiades. That'd be nice.
We have Opus here, helping out Gaia. So.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a little flat in on Tegeta? So I can stay there for a little while. But this is so I asked them what the next step is, and they said you'll be invited to speak. Get this, you'll be able to speak and channel me by that time. I also have memories of Atlantis, Lemuria, Sirius, Pleiades, Orion, Arcturus, and of course Lyra. How about that? So I'll be able to speak from my higher self about all of these things.
Your higher self from different locations. Hi, this is Jeremy from Jupiter, or Jeremy from the Pleiades, or Jeremy from Lyra.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's all to come, people. Gonna have to make a new show.
New show. You also get those extra hands to work in the network too, right?
Oh yes. Oh, and thank you everybody who's responded. I've had quite a few responses this week from my call out that I made last week, and so what I want to do, and here's an opportunity for anybody. Basically, I want to run a series of webinars to train people how to use the free radio station broadcast in a box Ubuntu system, right? Basically, you can use an old laptop computer and turn it into an internet radio station for free, right? You got any old unused laptops that are, like the hard drive might have gone or something, you can buy a new hard drive. Or just, running Windows Vista or something useless. You can, put a Linux system on it that runs really fast, does everything you want. And it has the Internet DJ console, which is what we use here, that does all this stuff,
Fascinating.
I have that at the touch of a button, and I'm going to run a webinar, or a series of webinars, how to install it, how to set it up, and how to use it to run your own internet radio station. So really what we'd like to do is, like, Wolf Spirit Radio is like more than just me and Colleen. Is like, it could be everybody. Everybody could have their own radio station for an hour a week or an hour a month or whatever, and we add it all into a large schedule. That's the idea anyway. That's how it's all. That's how, you see, I don't want to be a leader. I'm not interested in being a leader. I'm more in, like, I like to build something. I like to set it up.
Something, which you will be building a community at some point.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that maybe next week.
Absolutely.
Remember, everyone in the chat room or anyone that feels connected to Meetis, a medieval time period where you feel that you may be connected to that time, please join us. Ask questions, come into the chat room. We can do call-ins. And we're just going to have fun, and hopefully Ray Rowe will join me on the show that day, Ray, and to talk about what the session was and what we learned about his time period and his experience with Meetis. So
maybe we should have another
week.
show. Well, if we find some slots, maybe on my spare slots on Monday or something, we could have like an occasional show where we talk about, a session like you would with Ray, really in depth, really laying it out and speaking how that can affect someone, how it's having a session with you is more than just going to a fortune teller. It's a different experience. It's an experience. It's life-changing, life-improving. I would really recommend it. And I'm not just, she didn't pay me to say this.
Well, thank you, JP. I think I do. My intention is to help a person, not, just to give them pieces of information, but to remember and recall who they are and why they're here, type of thing. But, this will take place, Mirthling, next week. I was just looking in the chat room. And, we do have our guests waiting that are going to be come on sharing yet another story, of what came through from visions that I had yesterday.
Right. So look.
On a lighter note, Feather Wild said, I think she's implying that your other, aspects are Eric, as well as, there was another term that she used. Hold a second.
I'm known by many names, as they say.
Germine from Mars.
Germine from who's?
Yeah. Feather said that.
Doctor Who meeting Doctor Who, yeah.
Ray Roy, I was your wench.
Get me mead. Where's my mead?
Funny.
Mead. Anyway, listen. Because we were talking about the holes in the earth, I managed to dig out a Beatles song that is called The Sea of Holes, and another one called The Sea of Time, because we need to get things together. So, these are the two songs, The Sea of Holes and The Sea of Time, people. Here we go. Down, 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 down we go. I'll see you in a few minutes. And we're back.
Okay, well, hello everyone, and thank you. We are back with our guests. We have James Rink here, and James Rink has the show Super Soldier Talk. Is that correct, James?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's right. SuperSoldierTalk.com as well.
Okay, and John Forster is our guest. And so, of course, we're going to talk about, hello, John. We're going to talk a little bit about, I did a session with John yesterday, and some interesting things came up. And the reason why I thought could be very, very helpful is that I started having a vision of what created another type of super soldiers. The type of super soldiers that people are usually associating with are the ones from Montauk. And maybe, James, you can tell the procedure of how that comes about, how they are brought in, and it's a government-run program.
Yeah, so apparently Montauk is run by the Scorpion Corporation, which was set up in another parallel universe, and they control the bases at Montauk, which initially was at Long Island, at the end of Long Island, New York, an underground facility underneath Camp Hero. And this would probably have been about, at least, say 1940s, right after the Philadelphia experiment. Now there's probably, I don't know exactly when it begun, because I'm not the expert on that particular facility. But what I can tell you is that since that time, Montauk has been expanded to every state within the U.S., and I would not be surprised if it's in all NATO nations as well. And when I say expanded, I'm referring to trip seat technology, where they take individuals and plug them into these chairs that brainwash people, essentially. And there's certainly different aspects of the consciousness chair is what's called, or you call it the trip seat, or depending on who you talk to, it does various things, including teleportation, manifestation, and mind control.
Okay, so James, can you tell me that there's a group of people that they all pretty much knew each other, they trained together. Those are the ones that we're familiar with, maybe Randy Kramer, who might have known Dan McMullen, or Max Steele, or Max Spears, James Casbolt. I don't know if they were all kind of, there's like groupings of them that they all pretty much can say that they knew each other from some of these trainings.
Well, I like to add even further, Jessica. Every mill lab has been through Montauk. At least that's what I've been told. At some point or another, they're put through those programs, and the mind fracturing programs. The experts that do that are at Montauk, and usually involves holographic VR type technology. Right now, they don't actually physically torture people like they used to in the past, but hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, and so, they will talk about similar types of training and processes, and I know that you have some other experiences as well, almost like a next generation type of thing. And so I wasn't planning on stumbling on it, but I talked to John yesterday, and as I was talking to John, I had a clear vision of a boat. It was a naval boat, and I knew about the time period. It was around 1940s, and it was weird. It dematerialized right in front of me. I watched it. I was taken out of dimension. Everyone was dressed in white, and I saw John as the captain, and I was positive that you were on there, James. From there, it went into this other dimension. It looked like a jungle. And I saw everyone dressed up like we discussed it, like tribal-looking, thatched kind of housing. And the people were dressed minimally, like it was very warm or tropical. And there were families. I could see like little fires and different places, how they lived, how they ate, how they lived as a community. And the men were soldiers. All of them were trained. And as I was looking at it, I asked, and I saw them training with what looked like a reptoid-looking species, and it looked like a practice. And they were going back and forth, but they were not set up in a place where they would get hurt. It was more of a training. And in the process of training, I said, who is this? I said, who took them out of their dimension and brought them there? And I heard the builders did it. And I said, well, who are the builders? And, well, I knew who the builders were. And I said, well, why did you do this? And they said, because they felt that humanity needed to be stronger. And this is the way that they said it to me, is that humanity in our timeline was becoming too homogeneous. They used the word homogeneous. I think they meant, I think our interpretation would be androgynous. And so that people were becoming, in an effort to becoming more peaceful, that other species were stepping in and training us and teaching us to be more not non-gender specific, and which made us so passive that people were not able to protect themselves, because a future event, they said, was another universe species was going to come in, and they were going to be very violent, and that would have ended the remainder of who we are. we would no longer have survived. So they decided to step in as a collaborative of an agreement with all of the builders to bring in those that were equally fit and qualified to be in these programs. And, there's a certain type of psychological mindset of who is equipped to carry a gun, who is equipped to carry, to be in a position with very powerful weaponry. And so that you were all selected and to be able to take on this role, but also to properly train. Now, the training was suggested that it was done in such a way that you would go into battle, but it was more of a training battle. No one would really be hurt. Somehow, for one reason or another, one of the builders decided to make it more authentic, and he brought in another species. And the species came in so fierce and so violent, even in that space, in this jungle training center, that they started to kill everyone, and it was highly traumatic. And so the minds, everyone that was involved in that were wiped of their memories, so they would not reintroduce these traumas. But you all had families there, and you had this community that you lived in, and it was quite traumatizing, I guess. It was a mission or experience that went wrong. Since then, they told me that one of those builders has been missing. So I don't know how long ago this happened. The ship was taken, and there in the region of where I saw the ship was it just looked like it might have been on the Atlantic Ocean, but when I further looked at where the location was, there's the Bermuda Triangle, and then there's what's called the Devil's Triangle. Both places are locations where vehicle ships have been missing over time. And the area where what this location looked like, this training location, looked like the Galapagos Islands, but in an alternative space. Now, James pointed out to me that it looked like it was probably going to be too small there, but that's just what I saw. I'm trying to think if there's any other piece, and then I'd like one of you to respond to what I just said.
Okay, I've got a lot of questions, unless, John, you want to jump in first.
Oh, dive in. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, let's back up here. How many people were on this vessel that was teleported or, I guess, transmute, whatever, sent to this other dimension?
Yeah. It wasn't a carrier. It was a smaller vessel, and I would say maybe about 100 or so.
Okay.
And they were all males.
Okay. And what can you describe their uniform and what nation? I'm assuming this was a military vessel.
American,
Okay.
white clothing, white uniform. Yeah, it was a military vessel. Everyone was wearing white that I could see.
Can you look aboard the vessel and find a calendar hanging around and see what year, maybe even what month? Or is that asking too much?
No, I can look. 40. Looks like 43.
Okay.
I see June.
Okay. Can you narrow in onto John Forster's face and look at his uniform? Do you see any name tags?
I see the name Conrad, but I don't know if that's what that is.
Okay. How about me? Go narrow it into my face.
It was weird. When I was talking to John, I heard ensign. I don't know why I heard ensign. It might have been like one of the last words said before the boat was materialized.
So probably Conrad might have been his last name.
It could have been, or it could have been someone else's last name.
All right. So can you do the same for me and see if you can visualize that?
I'm hearing a name Clint. I don't know if that's yours.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of times what happens is like even Clint could be the USS Clint or Clinton or it could be my Clinton, could have been my commander, or a really close friend, or maybe Conrad. Maybe his first name was Clint, and we were just merging. So yeah. So
you said to focus on you, so I was hearing Clint, but it was with a K. It was with a K. So I don't know if that's
okay. All right. So apparently, according to my ACIO file, I went by the name of James Martin Reelsberg in the late 1970s when I did work for the U.S. Army as Delta One. So this is I would have had been, I was re-aged in 1979. So I'm assuming maybe I was 30 years old or 35 when I was re-aged. So I'm just trying to figure out the timeline here.
I think they pulled you out and then brought you back in after the
44.
incident.
They must
John
re-aged me and put me back.
They must have. John, I know, was, we figured out, I asked him if he knew the name of his I didn't know it was her name, the ex-wife. I even forget what I said. Was it Joan or Joanne? Joan. Yeah, I asked him who's Joan, and he said that was his ex-wife, and I said, well, she was your wife there, and his kids. And Annie was an elder there, who he's friends with. So I also feel like you had a family there as well, James, that you probably have been looking for but haven't found, because this wasn't kind of revealed or opened yet.
Okay. Can you ascertain how long we were in this tribal community? Sort of taken out of time.
Time's not like here, like there. Yeah, it's hard to, I'll try to say the equivalent of what might have been here, 10 years or so was like, I'm hearing something about 40 years. I don't know, but it probably didn't feel that way, or, yeah,
so,
it's just really hard to make a comparison.
So, do you think maybe when they took us out of time, they might have re-aged us back to a baby and then inserted us as like surrogate into these communities? Or did we just show up as a bunch of sailors with our U.S. military uniform, say, here we are?
You could both came in like a new incarnation. I think with James, for some reason in particular, they do something different with you. They have to be very, very careful who you are connected to as a family, I guess. You know, whoever you incarnate, you don't really incarnate, but they bring you in, right? But John, I believe, was incarnated then.
What if the builders, what if they took us onto a ship, put us into some kind of tanks, and had us, and created an avatar, and had us live this life through this avatar where our physical vessels were in a tank, and we lived 40 years while we could have been maybe 20 years on that ship. 20 weeks or 20 days on that ship. Am I throwing too many curveballs at you?
No, they're telling me that that's a different program. They don't need to do that. So that they're like, they're much older, further back in the history of the universe. So they're different. They don't need to use mechanical things for enhancements. They don't really necessarily create cyborgs as we know it, but enhanced beings. And so, their technology is much more advanced. Almost like they understand the building cells of our body and everything very naturally. So, what I'm hearing is that's a reflection of another procedure that you went through from another group that's more of a military base. as opposed to this species.
Well, why do you think they chose us?
You had the perfect mindset. You were qualified, and you were had the focus, and you had the consciousness that you would not just kill to kill. That you were there to defend. That you were there to be soldiers. That you were the cream of the crop.
So that would mean the other 100 people on board, including John and many of the others, were also in that same category. We were all sort of clustered together somehow. Maybe we were on some special mission. Maybe some top secret mission. We were all the elite.
Yeah. Yeah. If you would say that, what's the highest level? Maybe you guys were SEALs.
Is there a way we could trace this ship? Or maybe the ship was returned like moments after it was taken, and nobody even knows that we were gone. Is that how it might have worked?
They knew you were gone. They had to come up with excuses as to what happened to the ship.
Can you trace back the name of the ship? Look at the vessel?
I was trying to look. Do you remember what I saw, John?
You just saw USS G. G was the only letter that you got.
And it's probably been classified.
Yeah, that's what I think it was. Is it was not common.
Yeah, it seemed like it was blanked out, that you didn't like you would have got it if it was there.
Yeah, like if they want me to see it, they'll show me. Sometimes they voluntarily will show me time, place. I've had people look up what I tell them, and they'll find it. I even had a name for someone who lived in an ancient Roman Empire, and he found himself there. I have found the name. So, I mean, it's information that comes in. People have been able to validate. It's just that sometimes, for certain reasons, they don't say it. You know, the government probably wouldn't disclose that something like this happened, or they were, you know, it's hard for them to admit about the Bermuda Triangle and how these phenomena happen there. I mean, they're still having a hard time with the basic stuff of missing ships and don't want to discuss it, you know. So.
Okay. John, did you have any questions?
You know, coming into this, the story of myself is still quite engaging, but really not to the point where I ask questions. I'm listening and learning because I've had it confirmed from numerous perspectives of my involvement, but I have literally zero memories. Most of my memories from my childhood in this life are very, very scattered, oblique. But there's the feelings of what I'm being told that I was engaged with have started to, you know, put a puzzle picture together of me, how I've lived here, how I've felt, how I've hidden, how I've been motivated to, you know, do what I have done. Also lived a very physically traumatized life, and it seems to relate to much of what was said yesterday in specific with the session with Jessica, in that the avatar that was created with the soul abduction when the ship was, you know, taken, and then this avatar was doing his thing, and some residual effect in this life. So, Peter the Insider told me that I was working very closely with the Super Soldier program, but not in it so much as a trainer, so that starts to parallel to what Jessica came up with yesterday. And there are aspects of me, although in this life, you know, I'm 5'6" and weigh 125 pounds. I don't feel much or look much like a warrior, but there's a strong resonance to the warrior where, you know, you mess with me and then you won't mess with me again. Yeah, and I do that. I do renovation work, so I tell that to the plumbing when I'm fixing something and it doesn't go right. So I say, I'll leave, you won't. But some of the imagery very scant imagery that I've had related to the massacre that took place in that village, it wasn't a pretty thing that took place, and I came here to this life and married the gal that was there, had 2 kids, the same as what was there, and my son, who was killed in that village, was born 3.5 months premature. Very traumatic life that he's lived emotionally, and most of the babies that were born that premature aren't here. They passed before they were a few hours or a few weeks old. So something about his life is a reflection of some of that trauma as well. But I have no memories. It's a fascinating field to be involved with without memories, but have it confirmed in so many different ways from so many different angles. So Preston Nichols confirmed it, and Jay Essex confirmed it, and Max Steele confirmed it, Jessica's confirmed it. So it isn't singular, that it's come from so many different angles with so many crossing parts. So it's hard to ask questions.
Yeah, I have a friend that I talked to who, here again, I started explaining the story, and he said, I remember the jungle. He says, you're describing it exactly as I remember it. And we went back and forth, and I had that discussion yesterday. And he's someone that, he tries to stay in the background, but he listens to James' show.
Yes.
And he said that, he listens to James' show because James is really helping people who are having these memories to be able to put the pieces together and not feel like they're just imagining this stuff, but yet trying to get through whatever is ailing them. I mean, any type of soldier has levels of post-traumatic stress and some trauma, and trying to sort through it all. So people like James, they're putting themselves out there, and a lot of the stuff is hard to validate. But when you start talking about it, similar to my work, when you start talking about it and you find others that say, yeah, I remember that, it's refreshing. You say, oh, that's great. I'm glad you remember it. Because, it makes me feel a little bit more sane knowing that there's others out there. And I know that James is doing a really great work. We appreciate that what he's doing. And so it helps others to emerge and then find their healing and kind of understand what this process is. So it also kind of makes you think about what's going on there in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
So you think it's really, a horrible thing and something evil's happening, or maybe just the creator beings are coming in and kind of taking you for another journey. They feel that you're worthy of this other dimensional experience. So overall, it was intended to be a positive one, and I imagine if I saw this one, this must have been going on for a very long time.
Okay, I've got a few questions. First of all, John.
Yeah.
Did Peter tell you your SSG file?
I don't recall. That was he spoke of what was going on. It started when I was 4 here, and that was like a much more specific amount of information or quality of information with regard to my involvement with the Super Soldier program. So I don't remember specifically whether he did or he didn't. I have notes someplace, but I don't have them specifically with me. So
SSG is Super Soldier Generation.
Yeah, no, because he said that I wasn't a super soldier. He said that
you're just a trainer.
I was a trainer. At age 4 here, I was meeting with Donovan, if it's John Donovan, and he was coming to my house, and I had this massive telepathic capacity that now I see more of how it was being utilized, but that capacity was being utilized to do this training, and it seems as though, we have a parallel portion of me, or the avatar that was I was still involved with here, and they had to shut me down here because too much was coming. They had no control over me. I was way too strong. Again, according to Peter. So I have where I think they did a good job at doing the block. It's either a frequency fence or something, but there is no mental carryover where there's imagery. I think there's, as Jessica and I were experiencing yesterday, emotional carryover, where you're experiencing something that you think that it's here, but it's actually probably something from, a parallel scenario.
Okay. John, do you have a military background?
No. My dad was in the Army, Sergeant of the Guard, and I grew up in Rochester, New York, and there were some more pieces to this, that the University of Rochester being a hotbed for some of these programs. So my doctor, who I'm trying to find out more about, made regular house calls, and I'm, that's an oddity, and then things that I experienced here and didn't have any reference point for something traumatizing.
And have you read the Andy Perot story?
No.
Yeah, he claims that he went to the University of Rochester. This would have been the early 90s, 91, 1990, when Daddy Bush was in office. And he said that the top level of the library, they were conducting Nazis were abducting some of the students and taking the top level to experiment on them, to fragment their mind and make them into slaves and super soldiers. Do you recall ever going to the top level of that library?
Like I say, I have very little mental connection. Having grown up there, and then the strong hospital, which is associated with the university, is right there. That's where my son here spent 3 months, and he has seemingly been affected by this as well. But no memories of,
I want to be more specific. It was the University of Rochester's library.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a few comments. Is that a third party that doesn't want to be public? He also had two things that stand out. He also had a connection to Donovan, according to Peter, and also the question about Dick Cheney. He has distinct memories of being instructed by Dick Cheney, and the question, there was a question in the chat, James, do you remember anything about training with Dick Cheney? That was a question by Abraham Archibald. And also, let's see.
I do not.
Okay.
And I hope not. I hope I never worked with that guy.
How about you, John?
Rams has been tied in, but not Dick. I don't know Dick Cheney.
Romney, you said?
Yeah, Rumsfeld. That he went by the name of Rummy, according to Saggio.
Yeah. This is really just me getting educated, because I've come in at such an oblique angle here that there are no memories to speak of, and I just you get senses of something from what I've heard that that could be true. I have no proof of anything, and it's like a memory of somebody standing in the field and scaring the shit out of me, and it's like just running, but not knowing what that was, or
I think our government got into somehow got information about some of these soldiers that were being used by the builders, and then jumped in, similar to my situation where the T's were connecting with me as a very young child, and then the MyLabs discovered, it kind of raises a flag. And then somehow they figure out, oh, that one has a flag there because there's ETs around them. Let's find out who they are. And so they came to me in a similar way, and I think that's what they do. So there's kind of a meshing, and it creates even more confusion because what the builders did, they seem to be very benevolent in their training, aside from that kind of mishap that happened. And by the way, I just want to mention that those beings that came in, I thought they were gorillas. They had like very hairy black bodies, and then I realized later, and I asked who they were, and they said they were Afro-Draconians dressed up, and to disguise who they were, what they were going to do, just to let you know, because they are pretty fierce.
Yeah, they have tech.
They were scary. They were freaking scary when I saw them just jumping like in a way that you can't even imagine.
Yeah, I want to mention they have femto technology. They can shoot up into any of us, even the listeners. They could take one of you and shoot you up with this tech that will cause you to shapeshift. You could they shapeshift you into a draconian, or one of these 8 beings. So I don't necessarily think they have to wear a costume. They could just alter their DNA and.
Okay, maybe that's what they did. Yeah, but that was my interpretation of what had happened. It was a disguise. So yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us more about this builder's race? What do they look like? Where are they from? And what is their role here?
I couldn't see them. They were here very early in time. I think maybe we should bring in Peter as part of the discussion to get his advice. It's almost like, the Emerthers were here for a very long time. My understanding is that they had something to do with the foundation of the universe. So they're overseeing all different species, and they're benevolent. We're like their children. So hoping that the more evolved species will thrive, which was their intention in intervening and creating a training. But the training would have been, in the background. Well, one thing that Peter has mentioned in the past is that like Monarch was going to turn on everyone's super soldier program at some point in the event that something happens here. So that means that somewhere a lot of us have this embedded knowledge of how to defend and protect ourselves in ways that we aren't aware of. And maybe that's a part of the ingraining or the teaching that was designed to help an evolved species then at least be able to protect themselves. And also another thing that they showed me was one of the earlier interventions that they had was with the ancient Chinese, where they taught them the martial arts. And even though they were very peaceful and benevolent and were meditating and ascending, they also learned to use their body and learned to use their energy in a way that was very, very advanced. And the Tibetans didn't fully implement that, and they really suffered. But ancient China, you can see, still is thriving and teaching us.
Cool. John, you want to add something to that?
Strong affinity within me to deep spiritual, oneness, love, joy, and then I looked at my life kind of as a staggering, where I went from that high love to rage, and would cut somebody's throat in a heartbeat, kind of a walking, where you have these extremes that are experienced. So it was another piece that came in through the session that, there is that high-level spiritual warrior that uses love as a tool, where those who are not of that level of love it has severe repercussions on them through their own holding. They're just concepts that make sense to me and feel very that's kind of makes sense with regard to my life. And then there's other things where you could do some damage to somebody, if they looked at you wrong, and it isn't out of love, or it's just out of the capacity to do that, and so skewed. So in the session with Jessica yesterday, she said that this was meant to be a normal life here, and it's taken, I'm 63, it's taken, most of my life to get to a point where I would consider it to be, somewhat normal. And it's the women in my life that have helped me to see. So they've shown me in varying ways, through deep love or deep empathy, how I am and how things can be, and brought me in, because I haven't been here. I didn't want to be here because I think that the trauma was something that was keeping me from committing, keeping me from really having a stable life here. So,
and I think that was from that point where the Alpha Draconians came in and created a trauma, military trauma, like post-traumatic stress or something, and that stays in your subconscious.
Yep.
And so being able to talk about it, I think, helps. And sometimes you can say, well, now I know where to put that emotion. It was from that experience.
Yes.
Can you describe more about the trauma? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Jessica, can you tell us more about what might have happened?
They came in. The military saw that a tribe came in, and it was very spontaneous. But it was almost like the Pink Panther Cato type of incident, where they would just throw them off guard, and then they would, line up, or they would just, go right into their defense mechanism. And this only was not a practice, it was actually an attack. And it threw the men off because they were expecting, to step back and say, hey, yeah, good battle. And it didn't happen that way, and they went actually to the camp and started killing the women and children. It was horrific. I had a hard time looking at it, and it just showed the level of violence. To this day, that they said one of the builders is missing, and maybe all this information came about to explain why we've had this problem in the first place. Somehow, maybe in a way, the Alpha Draconians, the reptilians, they weren't supposed to be here in the first place, but maybe they came in they snuck in or went through a back door or got in through a dimension from other civilizations, other parallels, other experiences. I don't know.
So are you suggesting that the builders allowed these Draconians to come in to test us, and they thought we would be successful? And we weren't?
One Draconian, the one builder, I think, for some reason he was convinced that the Draconians were there to actually practice, or I think they wanted an opportunity.
Oh, it was just like 9/11. 9/11 was a military practice day.
Oh,
and it went
I
live.
see.
It's real.
Interesting, parallel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
James, John, maybe we should have some quiet conversations. I might be able to help you just a little bit.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're 5 minutes away from the next show, so perhaps time to wrap up, Jessica. It's very nice to hear from both of you, and nice to meet you, John.
You too, JP. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
you too.
for having me.
Thanks, JP.
Well, thank you very much for both of you, John and James, for coming on the show today. I know this is kind of an awkward, but you made it very public, and hopefully it's reaching others so they can kind of process it and think it through as well, and maybe the conversation needs to go further. We have a bigger discussion on it, or leave it however you choose. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We came from the future by way of the past. I bought my ticket for the 15th century.